Hello, parents, grandparents, future parents, and curious minds. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Steven.
And I'm PJ.
And this is
Dad's Discuss.
What up, dude?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
It's the holidays.
It is. Christmas is right around the corner, although it seems like this year has really flown by. And I don't know if that's just me getting older or what, but 2025 is about to end, and I feel like it just began.
Yeah, and we, have covered a whole year on the podcast, and man, we've had our ups and downs releasing stuff, but the year's been pretty good otherwise for this show.
I think so. I hope everyone's been enjoying listening to hear us talk, but as I said, everyone's so busy, the time keeps marching on.
Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully regain some ground in the new year and put out some more consistent content because I enjoy doing this.
Absolutely.
But yeah, enough of that.
Our board it keeps filling up with ideas of what we want to discuss, but one topic that has been on there since the beginning, and I wouldn't say we've been putting it off, but it's something that it's the last item that's on the board that was originally up there is the topic of religion. So we figured today would be a good day with Christmas holidays coming up, just going ahead and talking about that.
Just pulling the trigger, if you will,
That's
on
right.
The final top level discussion that we feared for, a year and a half now?
Yeah, fear maybe not the best word, but I know what you mean. I mean, there are hundreds of podcasts dedicated to religion and hundreds of sub-podcasts for each different type of religion. So this will be very generic, I'm sure, and we'll continue on with multiple discussions later episodes, but just to get the topic rolling.
Yeah, and we're lucky, unlucky, extra lucky, I don't know. It would be nice to get, a theologian on the show or any other theologian like from another faith than Catholicism, since we're both Catholic. So it'd be nice to get different perspectives on here one day too.
Definitely. That's one thing that I wanted to bring up first is I really dislike the amount of vitriol. That's not even a word. Vitriol, is that it?
That is a word. I don't know where you're going, but it is a word.
The hatred and like the back and forth you see between people, and I know that online is like
vitriol.
A different world. Thank you.
Vitriol, yeah.
Vitriol. But there is just a tremendous amount of ill tempers towards religion from both people who are not religious and from people who are not of the religion that you are. And I just hate to see that, especially coming from a background where I really feel like loving your neighbor is supposed to be, like the golden rule.
Above all else, right?
Exactly. And I just don't see that right now in today's society.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you even have standoffs of people. It's because the conversation has flown online, right? At least I feel like that's part of it. You don't have any immediate feedback from another person. You're chatting about ideas and stuff, which is great if you keep it civil, but it goes dark sometimes, and you have fights over even just, the Eastern Orthodox and, Roman Catholics or whatever flavor of Catholic you want to
definitely
follow.
The online aspect has really brought out the worst in people, if you will. You say whatever you want, someone else would respond. No one's actually talking. They're not communicating. They're just talking at each other. Yeah. And I feel like that type of conversation is lost when you're not speaking face to face.
Yeah. Kind of like in, for us, confession's a sacrament, right? So it's always face to face. I'm sure they probably did some virtual confessions during COVID just because everybody did virtual stuff then, but it's definitely an art or a sacrament. All the sacraments are obviously meant to be in person because it's more powerful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just real quick, wanted to bring this up, and I know this is dating at least when we recorded this, but something that happened recently that I thought was really unique is that the entire country of Australia just banned all social media. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I only saw a headline, but wasn't it for under 16?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's still significant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Just trying to make sure I understood it correctly. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, honestly. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think I'll have our kids access to, they'll slowly introduce to the internet. I don't think we'll be going straight to social media anytime soon. So the longer you can stay out of it, the better. I mean, we all struggle with it daily, right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we've brought this up on the podcast before is how the media portrays things, and religion being one of the biggest ones. It always is intent on making you feel some type of way. Like it wants to get that gut reaction so that you interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about religion, in our case, Catholicism being the faith that we belong to, and then speaking to people who are outside of that, when we're in a group of people and we're discussing these types of topics, I don't feel the amount of like anger that I think I see when I'm reading back and forth posts about religion online.
Yeah. Because everybody's trying to get a jab in online, whereas you have more of an opportunity to practice active listening when you're face to face with a person, and you're having to, oh, should I speak in now, or
Right.
should I wait and let them finish, or oh, I've got to counter that one so it doesn't go unnoticed, or something like that. I mean,
Yep.
it's a lot better to listen to a full thought before you interject, but interrupting's fine too. We do it all the time here.
That's all we do. We just talk back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
Uh,
Luckily, we keep it civil
hopefully,
mostly. I
always.
mean, we do need some more hot takes so that we can get
Well,
more listeners.
well, I don't. There's. I'm sure there's plenty of hot takes regarding this topic. But I feel very fortunate in. I've done, a decent amount of research. I truly do believe, which is one thing I think a lot of people, especially, they go through that phase where they're like, well, I don't know if this is real. I don't know what to believe. They call that like, being agnostic. You're not sure
Mm-hmm.
if there is a higher power or not. I definitely have made that decision. And I'm fortunate that we grew up in this country, even though there's plenty of aspects about America I don't like. I am fortunate to grow up in a country where, for the most part, being of different religions is not an instant ticket to being persecuted
Yeah.
against.
Yeah, you're not gonna get ostracized for your faith.
Yeah, or martyred,
Or
which
yeah,
is still happening in other countries of people of different faiths.
true. I mean, the give or take media landscape will use it for or against you sometimes, but most of the time it's like, leave them alone.
Yep, definitely. And
We're all
every day you
American.
walk down the street and there's hundreds of different Christian denominations. You're also surrounded by people who are atheist, agnostic. We have a
Mhm.
mosque here in Huntsville, so we have a Muslim population. I believe there's a synagogue as well.
Yeah,
So anytime you're
all
walking
across the
around,
board.
there's plenty of people of different faiths, and just having that awareness that we
Yeah,
can all coexist. We
right,
may not agree on everything, but we don't have to just kill each other over it.
right.
And that makes me really sad to see that that still happens in a modern society.
Yeah, we may not like the Scientologists, but we'll tolerate them.
Exactly.
There you go. There's a hot take for you.
And I still don't quite comprehend that. From my understanding, it's just a very out there mentality, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like once you get inside, you don't even know what you believe until you have provided enough money to the corporation
Right.
that they unlock different levels for you.
Yeah, it's a rich person club. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't know. I was watching a video on it of somebody that left that church explaining it, and it's just wild.
From what I've seen, which is like I said, very basic, and here we go talking about hot button issues. To me, it sounds like the religion that they made up for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
obscure. Just
Yeah, I can see that comparison.
yeah,
Yeah. But it's interesting. We want to talk to, I guess we're talking about religion. It's the top level version, not diving into different ones and doing any research or theological debate. We'll center it around like how we use it in the household and what it means to raise people, maybe,
sure.
since it is parenting, and how it affects your kids and the people around you. And one of the things I think it provides is, if you believe and the faith aligns and you align with the faith, then theoretically you should at least find like-minded individuals that are trying to do good, and that's going to surround your kids with lots of people trying to do good in the world, rather than if you're just joining for some nefarious reason, everybody else might be following something, like you just want to get paid to get into heaven or something. If you're falling into a religion like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
No, I think that's a great point. Something we've discovered, and I know if listeners may remember this from the past, but both mine and Steven's children are currently going to a Catholic school, different Catholic schools.
Hmm.
But I have noticed just the more well-roundness that my child has had because we are constantly now surrounded by children and families who share the same values, who share the same faith.
Yeah.
And I actually like that. I wouldn't say at all that it is cornering them, if you will. Like they're still teaching them every aspect about, different science topics, everything like that. So it's definitely not brainwashing,
Yeah.
but it's nice to be able to find that medium where everyone at least has the same values and mentality.
Yeah. And yes, that is a big word to throw around, is the indoctrination of
That's the word I was
children.
looking for.
And it's a give or take. That's another reason why I love our faith, is that you're not told to blindly follow. We have confirmation for a reason, that you know what you believe and why you believe it
Right.
at a
Like you
certain
don't
point in
go
life.
into it without you making that decision that, yes, I do truly
Yeah.
believe this.
Yeah, and at least there are sects, there are people that push it really hard, but most of my faith journey has been people like no low pressure, like this is what we believe, we'll teach you about the faith, you decide on your own, sort of thing, which is wonderful to
Oh,
see.
for sure.
Yeah. But that's not to say the church doesn't have its own problems, but that's not for today's
Oh
podcast.
yeah, no, and we'll certainly get into that. And just as I mentioned, a recent thing that I saw in terms of people just being angry about other religions. Uh, there was a location here in our state, not in our city, but somewhere in the state, where they denied a permit for a Islamic school to be constructed
Oh wow.
because they didn't want that. And I was actually quite upset about it. Like, I don't believe in that. I do believe that Christianity is correct, but who am I to stop a different religion from setting up an institution if they want to have their school? We have Catholic
Yeah.
schools. Why can't they have that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I can see stopping someone from trying to help in education is if, like, it's dangerous to build on that land or
Yeah. No.
something,
And it was definitely
like
not
you're
that.
gonna anything you put there is gonna fall down or something. Like, why would you try and stop people from being educated? I don't know.
Yep.
I can, yeah, that's a problem. Wow. Yeah, so as that would affect the household, I guess you're talking about parenting. If you're thinking outside of our bubble, that would have a big impact on your family if you wanted your kid to get that extra education. Because I find that in the Catholic school, it's just extra. It's an extra thing to learn. I didn't have anything extra in a public school education. It was
Right.
like
No, like I said,
very streamlined.
same curriculum. All the sciences, math, all the STEM courses, art. You just have that extra component. I know, like Luna, my daughter, she's learning Latin right now.
Oh,
I
nice.
never had that opportunity. That's cool that they do it. So just various aspects, tying your faith into the real world, because a lot of people like to compartmentalize it, and they say, well, church is church, and then you know the rest of the world is this. But we're all
Hmm.
living in this world together.
Right.
And for those who do believe, like, it's all connected, it's all integrated.
Hmm.
So not having that distinction where, all right, Sundays is church day and then Monday through Friday is school.
Yeah.
No, it should all be the same. Or
Yeah.
it can be if you want it to.
Yeah. Well, it's I think we covered it a little bit in one of our podcasts about, like, where you choose to spend your time. I think that was the control, what we can control, and you can almost effectively control the community you're a part of, and churches rolled into that, right? So
Yes. Hmm.
you can go hard on your faith and spend, I mean, the Catholic faith gives you every day there's a chance to celebrate Eucharist and the Mass and whatnot. Or you can do it as little as you want, and you may not get the same benefit of community out of it. And I think the hottest commodity now in the world of technology and advancements and things like that is connection,
Oh, for
and
sure.
how we're losing it. And church is a great place to find connection
Yep.
to
No,
something.
I agree with that, and I'm glad you brought that up, which is why I enjoy doing this podcast with you. Like, it's an in person interaction with one of my best friends, just getting to talk to people. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying hearing us talk. But we had an event fundraiser for the school there at the church in the parking lot. Big event. I thought it was actually fairly successful. But the whole time I was there, because everyone was doing something, things were going on, I don't remember ever pulling out my cell phone. Like, it was
Nice.
that in person interaction, and I don't want to sound like some old guy or something like that, but it's really gotten to the point in today's world where you don't see that much anymore.
Yeah.
Even in a group of friends sitting down to dinner together, like, someone's probably not going to be paying attention to the group. They're on
Yeah.
their phone, and just having an opportunity to get away from that for a while is
Yeah, I
nice.
couldn't imagine like our time in the dorm rooms and stuff going through college, what it'd be like now with the so many addictions out
Oh
there.
yeah. Well, I see it
Like,
with my teenage son and his friends. Like, yeah, they'll come over and they'll play, but sometimes it's them sitting on the couch together, each looking at their individual phones.
oof.
Now they might be sharing videos back and forth, but I just find that unique because there's just not as much talking and interacting going on
Yeah.
as what we were used to.
You're losing a lot of skill building for natural networking and things like that that you can use later in life. I mean, did you introduce them to co-op video games
Yeah.
where they're at least
Yeah,
playing on one of the same screen together?
they played plenty of games, which is
Oh,
nice.
that's good.
Yeah. Well, then you
Yeah.
get into the internet game chat rooms, and you remember how those are, which is
Yeah.
definitely not on the topic of religion, but
Well, they talk about a lot of the leadership podcasts and stuff I listen to, boredom being a key thing for innovative thought too. So, you see children that you tell them, well, you can't play games, you can't play with your toys. We don't have any books right now. You're just out and about in a field, and they'll make up a game. Whereas now, they make the phone so addictive that you keep scrolling and you don't have time for boredom and other thoughts. So I've been trying to give myself more boredom time because I think that's where you really think of creative things. And that's one thing, tying it back to the discussion at hand, that I benefit from through the Mass is that, as cradle Catholics, we've heard the Mass so many times that there are definitely sections where you can tune out and you know what's going on. So I just let my mind wander and be bored and just think of things so that I can be a little bit creative
okay.
or pray or, stuff like that, reconnect with God and whatnot.
Yeah,
Whatever I need in that moment
that's
usually
good.
tends to work, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but that's something that unfortunately I have lost since having a remote position. Used to you
Mm.
could have a nice 30, 45-minute commute each way,
Oh, yeah.
and it'd just be you in the car, by yourself, maybe a little music, maybe not, just, really thinking about things. And now I just don't have that. I,
No, you
wake
can't.
up, I get started with the day, take a shower, head downstairs, and like there's never a time where it's just myself. Then it's instantly to the grind.
Yeah.
And I did. I used to, pray a lot when I would be driving because it would,
Mm.
give me something to do, talk to God while it's just me. And not having that community more is one of the few negative aspects I would say about working remotely.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody says it's a bonus not to have to commute.
Well, just that alone time. Like, I don't.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
be in the office with everyone. I want to do my work and not be bothered.
Yeah,
But just not having a time where it's just me by myself and my thoughts.
that's fair. I mean, and you never found a pattern to get into to where maybe you just went on a walk or something middle of the day or
Right,
whatever.
yeah. And I think that's a common thing that most parents would say is just the time where they can be by themselves. Even if I've, gone to the restroom, if I'm in there for 30 seconds, someone's knocking on the door, like trying to get my attention. I'm like,
Yeah.
can you just give me a moment?
Yep.
And that's a very common thing we hear from most parents is just finding time to gather their thoughts without someone needing something.
Yeah. It makes sense because creative thought can't creep in if you're just trying to solve the next problem, right? You
Right.
gotta let you got to be bored in quotes. You're not bored, your mind's racing, but you don't have any distractions, so you can actually resolve what's in your head.
And that's what's fascinating to me when reading uh, religious text or someone like the early church father writings. They didn't have so
Anything.
much of the stuff that we
Yeah.
had. And so you can really see the insight of them having spent, you know, days, months, years poring over religious texts and contemplating them, like the old
Hmm.
philosophical teachers of the Greek times.
True.
They just had the time where they weren't distracted by society and everything else we have nowadays to really ponder what
Hmm.
is religion, what is this text that I'm looking at. And you can see that in the writings that I don't see in like modern day uh,
Yeah,
apologetics.
that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Now, I'm not saying you lock yourself in a padded room and try and make yourself extremely bored,
But
but,
there are monks who do. I mean, that's all they do, right?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, that's where you get very good individual thoughts, whether they're sound or that's got to be vetted, but you definitely come up with creative stuff. I mean, that's also where the inspiration of shower thoughts come from
Right.
because you can't have any electronics in the shower, so your mind starts wandering and you think of solutions when you're not looking at anything else. You're just unless if you're one of the people that are very systematic in their showers and they're like, do 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 do, I'm done, and then you walk away. But if you sit there and let the water run over you, you can think of some good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know exactly where I was going to go after that because you started making me
It's a
think
bit
about
of
taking a nice hot shower.
yeah, bit of a tangent.
uh, you said something earlier that caught my attention, and it was about having. Oh, what was it? I can't remember. We'll come back to that. I'll splice it back into the
Having a
podcast.
beer.
I do enjoy beer. I'm currently drinking a Sapporo. It's a premium beer from Japan. I actually believe I've had one of these before on this podcast.
Yeah, and the listeners might start thinking it's a fan favorite of yours. I'm drinking one of the Hefeweizens from Polinar, which I also think I've had on the podcast. You can tell what the beer fridge is full of.
Good stuff, obviously.
Right.
Oh, I'm really racking my brain on what you say because it was gonna lead me into a good segue, and I just can't think what it was.
It's going to lead all of us and our listeners to
It
enlightenment. And you
was.
just dropped the ball on it, PJ.
That's okay. I'm gonna try and segue myself into it. It was along the lines of speaking about a topic with someone else and having that conversation, but also having others who have done that before. You don't want to lock yourself in a room,
Mm,
read through something, come up with your own conclusions. That's how heresies are created.
true.
I'm a big proponent of not using your own interpretation for religious text,
Yeah.
especially when we have thousands, literally thousands of years of people much more knowledgeable than ourselves who have gone through that as well.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I do think, at least in terms of how I believe for my religion, for other religions as well, I am not a big fan of coming up with a personal interpretation of things. You should study the text, you should study those who have done this before, the leaders of the church, really gather all the information to make an informed
And
decision.
speak to others. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why, at least for our faith, it doesn't change easily as far as traditional things and whatnot because you have to form a council and it's not just a pope decreeing things like others might think. It's a whole system of change that
Right,
has to be
because what
undergone.
they've said has been, tested and studied for years. It's not something that was just come up with on a whim and that can be changed later on.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point. Don't believe it or don't interpret it yourself. Rely on others, but also don't stymie yourself if you have a thought.
Yeah.
Kind of like peer review in engineering work.
Oh, absolutely.
And you come up with an idea and then you get other engineers to vet that idea.
Yep, and if you come up with an idea that is new, that may be a good thing or it could be a bad thing because if it's the first time it's ever been seen, there's a good chance it's probably incorrect and someone would have thought about it before then.
Mm-hmm. And there's going to be multiple iterations too. Typically, you start with something, that's not going to be the end product of an idea. It's going to evolve over time, and you have to find a user for it, right?
Yep. And that's another thing, I mentioned about, gathering resources and interpreting it with the help of those who are more experienced, more knowledgeable, because I don't believe that belief in God was just a byproduct of me growing up in America. I know a lot of people like to use that excuse, but I feel like I have done not super diligent research, but enough among the other main religions of the world to say that this is what I believe, and I'm not just doing this because I was doing it when I was a kid. I'm doing it because I've looked at the other ones and they just don't make sense. Like, I just don't believe that it's true.
Yeah. I don't know if I've done what you say in exploring other religions to the point where I fully understand them, but I was talking to a coworker actually today about how I used to be more theological mindset until probably right after college and work started and life kind of
Ah,
gets
so
in
you
the
got
way.
it got busy, yeah.
Yeah, life gets busy and then you're like, "Oh man, what was I doing now? It's been a decade." Like let's talk about it on a podcast, I guess.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that if it doesn't stir us up, maybe it'll stir up someone else.
Yeah, for sure. But I still always, love the faith and love that time, quiet time, I guess. Not so quiet anymore because you're chasing kids, but they'll learn eventually.
It has been fascinating to me for someone like you, Stephen, who grew up in the public school system but also was Catholic, sending your kid now to a Catholic school and seeing that integration has
Yeah.
really been fascinating to me. She comes home and she's wanting to teach me a song that, like, I remember from my
But
childhood.
yeah, that you already know most of it, and you're
Right,
like, oh
exactly.
yeah, I forgot that
It's like
existed.
that's really neat that you're learning that, or coming home, talking about various aspects. Like, she knows the colors of the rainbow in order of the color spectrum, and then she'd be like, "Do you know why God set the rainbow out?" So just seeing stuff like that
Hmm.
was kind of cool, like
Yeah,
how they're integrating what you learned in school while also talking about
yeah,
whatever particular religion you're in.
yeah, and then recounting biblical stories and stuff on a very simple level, but she's already doing that, which is crazy cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that is cool that you're learning that. Like I said, it's another extracurricular almost, but baked into the curriculum.
Yep.
Sounds like there's some new people upstairs.
A party.
Yeah, it sounds like a party's going on. I don't know if that's getting picked up on the mics, but I'm sure you listeners love some background noise. Kids are always fun to have on a parenting podcast. Anyways, yeah, them bringing home stuff is like like you said, awesome and reignites. I guess I can see why there's a drop off historically of like college kids because you're pushing in tons of other information through college, and then you get into the workforce and you're super distracted, and then you finally have kids in our generation and you're like, well, I want them to have the same faith I have, so now I've got to learn theology again and introduce it to them and have conversations about it, and them test me while I'm testing them in the faith.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and I mean that it varies person to person. Ironically enough, before I had kids, I was probably much stronger in my faith,
Hmm.
only because I was involved in a very active young adults group
Mm,
in the city I was currently in, which had plenty of people in the faith. So being, like you said, with like-minded people,
yeah.
just kind of naturally brought that out. Then when I had a family, you kind of not really shelter yourself, but your world becomes a little smaller and your focus changes.
Yeah.
So at least my aspect was a little different than yours, as I was probably more faith oriented before I had kids, just because I had more time to think about it.
Yeah. True. You had that. Well, you were also in a really small town for a while, so you had that boredom baked in there.
Yeah,
So you had
that's
time
true.
to think.
You can't go to the movie theaters when your town doesn't have a movie theater.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I did well soon after college was a lot of getting involved in RCIA and a couple of just faith community things and whatnot, but you give what you put in, right? So eventually, like you said, priorities change and shift and stuff like that. So
Which is why I'm another aspect of why I'm glad that we're sending our kids to a Catholic school is because it's giving myself more opportunities to do that. I mentioned about that fundraiser event we had. It's it's making me be able to think a little bit more critically about certain things. If my daughter asks me a religious question, I don't want to give her the wrong answer. So if I know it, I'll tell her. If I don't, go take 5 minutes, do the research, make sure I have the right answer, and then I learn something in the
yeah,
process.
nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what because they're always trying to get me to join like Knights of Columbus and things like that, and I'm always thinking, how do I squeeze one more thing into my schedule?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, maybe I put that on a docket for when, kids are out of the house, or do you just make the leap and take a leap of faith and get more involved? I don't know.
And I mean,
It's like
it
it's
takes
a
a
tough
special type of
balance.
person for sure. I think that's why there's a tendency to see not events, groups like that tend to attract an older crowd because they have a little bit more free time.
Yeah.
Quite a few of the knights that I know are people who are retired or all of their kids have left the house and they have more time to
Hmm.
dedicate to, organizations,
Right.
charitable organizations. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is the being in a company that's very community minded. I try to do my best to volunteer and do things as much as I can in the community, and that's another aspect, right? So, you know, it's how much can you stretch yourself, and we've talked about that a little bit here on what you can control.
Yep.
So religion is just another aspect of how deep do you dive down the rabbit hole and how much do you get involved and put put the effort in.
Oh yeah, and as someone who is religious, I definitely can see the negative side effects when someone deep dives a little too much.
Yeah.
There are certain people who, I would believe atheists would consider like fanatics, if you will, and when you get to that point, I think you may have lost sight of the end goal. So I highly recommend not to traverse it to the point that it consumes your entire life unless it's consuming your life in a good way, like, oh, I've decided I want to be a priest, or in a Protestant denomination, no, I'm going to be a pastor. But if you are a
Yeah.
layman and all you do is talk about various aspects of religion to everybody, online, you're chronically online talking about different things, calling people out, it's there can always be a good and a bad thing, even for something good, if you
Yeah.
take it too far.
Yeah. Hopefully, commenting on a dad's parenting podcast where they just talk about a lot of tangents and move on, and then clicking a like button and possibly even subscribing.
Wow. All right then. It's funny you bring that up because I have never been the type of person to listen to podcasts, even though I record them with you. I never watch like YouTube influencers and all those types of people, but I definitely have seen a couple of the videos because my son does, and it's funny they always say the same thing. Don't forget to subscribe to Patreon, whatever the hell that is.
Man, you are so out of touch.
I am. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you about it later. We don't have time in the podcast.
All right.
If you can't tell by now, we have zero prep when we go into these episodes. I will say early on, I used to make outlines for us so I could at least guide our thoughts. Now we've just become completely unhinged and
Unhinged. I live my life, listeners, unhinged and, you know, flying by the seat of my pants, if you will. That we knew that this episode was going to be a just a generic introduction. At least I hope so. I would like to deep dive into some more of these hot button items involving religion. I'm sure it will tend to gravitate towards Catholicism just because both me and Steven
it's
are.
what we know most about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this was just going to be a broad topic, and I'm glad you brought up about how it relates to the family, though, because in the end, this is a Dad's Discuss podcast.
Yeah.
And I think, for the most part, I am actually very happy that I have the opportunity to share my faith with my children, mostly because, as a believer, I do think that there is life after death.
Yeah.
And as such, I hope that my children can come to that realization and, go through the necessary steps to attain that.
Yeah, because the biggest question is what's the risk of believing versus not believing, I guess.
Yeah.
If you believe there's a higher plane and you want to get there, then maybe you should seek out a truth that you can find. And that may not be the same one that I come to a conclusion for as the guy next to me, but at least we're all seeking something better rather than going down for something more evil.
Yep. And I think, at the crux of all religions, that is hopefully what it's all about. Now, there's various aspects people disagree with. That's why we have different religions, the three main
Yeah.
monotheistic religions, thousands and upon thousands of denominations in each. Uh, but the crux of it is you believe that there is something more than this life,
Yeah.
and you are attempting to do what you believe is necessary to attain that.
Yeah. True. And there may be some misguidance amongst, I mean, when you get a population of humans that are capable of thinking beyond animalistic instincts, you're going to have disagreements.
Oh, absolutely.
And so 8 billion people, it's going to cause some, I think this is how it goes versus that. But
Yep, and even centuries and millennia ago, before there was 8 billion people, they still had those same arguments. A lot of religions have come and gone, if you will. No one still prays to Mars or Venus,
the
but
candy bar?
the Roman god, but
Oh, yeah.
that's the candy bar. So that's one thing I kind of like doing a little research on in my free time, is seeing how various religions have sprung about. Like, what were the cultural significance of them? Do people still practice that? I know
Mm,
Judaism and Hinduism are some of the oldest in the world that predate Christianity by thousands of years, and there are still active participants. And it's just
yeah,
neat to see the spread of these religions through various parts of the world.
that's very true. And then I had a thought there. Oh, yeah. You talking about other religions and their historical context. That's one thing I'm very interested in, if the Catholic school system teaches that or not
Oh, I'm sure it would have
down
to.
the line.
Anytime you get involved in history, you're going to have to come upon these historical events that led to things. At the sacking of Rome, moving it to Constantinople,
King
the start of
Henry.
the Byzantine Empire. But even before that, the rise of Islam throughout the Middle East and its expansion.
Yep, the Protestant Reformation or
Yep,
whatever
yeah,
some
that
people call it.
growing up here in America, and I feel like they definitely focused on European history. I did
Oh,
not get a
true.
lot of Asian history, so yeah, the Protestant Reformation was a pretty big topic in our world history course.
Yeah, I guess that must be just ages of, you know, being so connected to Europe as a nation from starting from European settlers and whatnot, I guess.
Yeah,
And it's
I
just
think it's
worked its
just
way through because it's like if you're going to study history, you should just study all of it, right? And you you're right, it was like not until college that you finally got exposed to non either American or European history.
yeah. A old friend of mine who had grew up in a different country came to me one time and told me something I'll never forget because it was that funny and that true. He said, "Kids who are in America, when they take history class, they are learning what America did in history, while kids who take history courses in another country, they are truly learning about like history of the whole world in its entirety, not just what America did at that point in time."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there was a world history class that I remember, but it was like I believe you only took it 1 year and it was just like blowing through stuff like here's a whole like 20,000 years this happened or
Right.
something. It was like, wait, but now we're only covering like 2 decades in America. What, like, surely more stuff happened 20 in
Surely.
that 20,000 span.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a world history, but it's kind of narrows down real quick in 1900s, which can be interesting. But that's I guess what comes in with faith is that you start looking at historical context stuff. You get drawn into more things and exposed to more things.
Yeah, hopefully. At least, if that's your mindset. I know there are plenty of people who also say, well, I just want my mentality to be that of a child. Like I want to accept it, and that's all. But
Mm,
I'm not like that. I like to do research. I like to learn things. And for me, at least, it only helps to increase my faith. As the more I learn about the world, the more I believe. And, our listeners can agree with that or not. But I remember the first time I truly comprehended what an atom was, and I was just blown away. I was like, "You're telling me that our entire world is made up of infinitesimally small electric charges?" And I did. To me, that just makes God seem even more impressive. It's like,
mm,
wow, that's fascinating.
that's true. And how does biological material send electrical currents to think of
Yeah,
stuff? It's just wild.
you're just one
Right.
electrical current there, Stephen.
Yeah. And we're just little silicon boards made of different material.
Yeah, it's the complexity of life. It gets even bigger when we talk about space and just the vast expanses.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other day I saw that Voyager space probe, the farthest man-made object that's ever left Earth, finally just left our solar system, which in the
Oh wow.
cosmic grand scheme of things,
Not that big.
no, nothing. I mean, we're still
Yeah.
light years away from the nearest star. Is crazy.
Right. That's wild. Yeah, we need to stop our fights here and start evolving to where we can take on aliens. That's for
And
sure.
and until we have a common enemy, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think they
Yeah,
talked about that in Independence Day. That's what brought
that's
humans
true.
together, is someone else to fight against.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a common theme in a lot of shows and books and things like that. Once you find out that you were living in a vast universe with other beings. Oh man, now we're scared.
Right? Yeah. Or, wow, we should stick together because we are very finite, very limited compared to just how vast everything is.
Yeah, I think a lot of lessons learned in there from yeah, that thinking theologically in the world of like a Star Trek, if you do that thought exercise, would you still believe in what you believe if you're surrounded by multi dimensional beings and you can phase through walls and teleport places and whatnot? Would you still have your faith in a higher power than that if you're seeing all these essentially magical technologies?
Yeah. No, I agree. That's definitely something that, for those of us who have never seen an alien before,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that hasn't been thoroughly studied. I know the church has come out to say if life forms outside of Earth were ever to come to Earth, we would baptize them if they so wanted to. But I think it would definitely be shattering revelation to some people who have a very tight or mindset about how the way the world works.
Yeah, because
Um,
speaking of the vitriol online, you then have a bunch of comment sections saying, "Oh well, aliens exist. So what if Jesus was an alien and just
exactly.
uses
Yep.
technology to wow
Yep.
people?"
And then if they ever were to visit, and we spoke with them, would they have their own thousands upon thousands of denominations of a religion that we've never heard of? So
Yeah.
it's definitely, if that time ever were to come about, would be a huge shakeup, and I'm
Hmm.
sure people would just have to, you know,
Evolve.
yeah, right, continue on, see, and
Yeah.
make their decision.
Yeah, I don't know if it falls necessarily into religion, but that theory, I don't know if it borders on a theological theory or a scientific theory or a mix of both. But I'm gonna get it wrong now that I'm trying to think about it, but essentially the Great Wall theory or whatever it's called, where it's like if we surpass the wall and able to space travel where we find other life, a Great Barrier or something theory,
Okay.
something like that, then there's a barrier of if we cross the wall and nothing's out there, that's probably better for us because we'll be the ones dominating space and creating things. But if we stay on the other side of the wall and something finds us, we're screwed because they're going to be so much more evolved than us
Oh yeah,
that they could wipe us out in an instant.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
I can't remember what that's called, that theory's called, but it's like one of those borderline, like this is science and religion kind of mixed into a theory.
That's cool. Yeah, it probably is Great Barrier, and that's an interesting concept because if you think about, and you can even use that here on Earth. Say, what's the most remote society you've ever heard of? To me, it's like the people who live in the North Singhalese Island.
Hmm.
If they were to one day in their ships of wooden canoes leave their island and try and invade a modern country, I mean,
That's true. Yeah.
we would just it'd be over in an hour.
And just be laughing or
Yeah.
whatever.
And
Yeah.
that's, that is exactly what would happen if an alien race were to come to Earth. Because
Yeah.
if we just now made it outside of our solar system after 50 years of traveling in space, if they have the technology and insight to come here, it would be like,
Game over.
yeah, us talking to ants.
Yeah. So there's the two concerns of the modern day, right? We bend the need to an alien, or we bend the need to an AI that we let out of control, right? Those are the two problems we're facing.
That's why I just have to, every time Copilot pops up, I'm like, no, go away. Please
Not
stop.
today.
How can I disable you on my work computer? That's my main question.
Yeah, sometimes you launch an AI app and you're like, "When are you gonna take over the world?" Is your question? Oh no, I'm just a chatbot. Yeah, I don't believe you.
Right? You work for the man. You're part of the system. That's funny. I don't know if you follow any of the Vatican news sites or keep up with some of the things that Pope Leo have been saying, but he actually did come out recently with a very negative connotation about his thoughts on AI,
Mm,
and I had to agree honestly with what he was saying. I don't think it's of benefit the way it's currently being used, and I think it's only going to continue to get worse unless someone with better knowledge than myself can see a utilization for it.
yeah, I mean it depends on what level you're talking about AI. Like the AI that's invented and being used now is not anywhere close to like a true artificial intelligence. That's why they've shifted to a AGI being the term that they're trying to accomplish.
And for
So,
those like myself and listeners that don't know what AGI means,
artificial Jesus.
in
Amen.
our religious
Amen.
episode,
The G is generative intelligence, I guess. So it essentially AI as you think it is probably like a robot that understands and can compensate like a human, right?
okay,
Like evolve and grow.
such as like Bender
Like
from
right,
Futurama,
yeah.
a sentient
That's what you
robot.
would normally think is
Yes.
AI, right? Well, since current technology's been labeled AI, they've deemed AGI being the next step. That's a sentient being.
Okay.
So we're not even close to AGI. I
No.
mean, the accelerated growth of what we have the capability now would probably get us there sooner than anyone would anticipate 5 years ago. But I mean, it's still going to be a long road
Yeah.
before we create anything like a Skynet or whatever from Terminators. Uh, but people are trying. I mean, the Pandora's box is out and it's kind of a race, but it's not, in my humble opinion of a technologist, it's still probably the bare end of my lifetime. So maybe generations after us have to worry about something like that.
Well, this is interesting to bring up in the religious context episode because based on our communications, it sounds like you fully believe in the potential of intelligent beings outside of Earth.
Ah, potential. I,
Okay.
I I think it's a non-zero chance.
All right. So
It's
what
great.
about AI then? Do you think that there's ever a chance that we could potentially create a computer that is sentient or self-aware?
That's a that's a tough call because then you're talking about a in my mind you're talking about needing a power source beyond what we have imagined now, but I like to believe in the theory that the universe is infinite and will go on forever. So if you can think of something, one day the possibility of it existing is non-zero.
Okay.
It's above zero somewhere. So whether or not humans with our capable knowledge would build something capable of doing what our minds and bodies can do, yeah, I think we could achieve it, but whether or not we destroy ourselves along the way, I'm not certain about.
Okay. It
So,
it's interesting to see these types of sci-fi situations. More comical ones like Futurama, where the
yeah,
robots are very human-like, and or
yeah,
then more detrimental ones like Skynet, where it's self-aware and determines
yeah.
that humanity is
Or
a threat.
Matrix, yeah,
Well, yeah, exactly. The Matrix is a good example. I don't know if I have come to the conclusion that I believe that's ever physically possible. And I
yeah,
say that only because in order to have like a self-awareness, in my mind, one has to have like a soul. And I just don't know if
that's
we
fair.
can artificially create that. Like, I could be wrong. Other people feel free on our podcast to tell me, "Hey, I think you're
Yeah,
wrong." But I don't believe that there is any animals that are self-aware. They may appear self-aware,
yeah,
but there is no dog that knows it is a dog.
yeah.
I think
It,
I read something the other day that out of the hundreds of words that we have taught primates in sign language and everything, never once have they ever turned around and asked us a question, because that would take a critical thinking thought process that they just do not possess, a self-awareness that I am in existence.
yeah, and it'd be very hard to prove that from a artificial intelligence. But that's a good point. I would say that we would be closer to mirroring a consciousness versus
Creating one.
creating a new one.
Okay.
But it depends on where you draw the line of consciousness, I guess. Like your definition is a soul inherited from another being. Well, whoever created said mimicked consciousness. Did they impart their soul into it? Because artificial really just mimics what you've given it,
That's
just
true.
like we mimic the environment around us. This is a very yeah, I'm gonna have to let you deep dive into some Star Trek lore because they explore this concept themselves within the series with a
Okay.
android called Data that becomes basically they claim it's self-aware, and then over the series you're like, oh man, could they just like be one of the crew and they're human? Like they explore that throughout the series where people are like treating them just like we would a robot, and over time it evolves to be like, no, maybe it is learning to be a human from us in our environment and
That's
growing
cool.
to evolve and become a soul. So can we achieve that? Maybe, possibly. It's not beyond, it's a non-zero chance for me.
I
It's
like your explanation of it everything having like a non-zero chance.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to remember that.
yeah. It may be beyond my comprehension and the amount of zeros to the right of the decimal and then a one,
Right.
but I'm only gonna live for less
Finite amount
less
of
than
time. Less than
150
150
years.
zeros. Yeah.
Yeah, less than that number of zeros. So who knows?
Okay. Yeah, and all of those things I think, go back to religion in general, and just all of those things go. All right, listeners, I just sneezed, and Stephen then made the sign of the cross to say bless me from across the room. I just had to tell you that. But all of these deep theological and philosophical topics go back to religion, because I feel like that's what past generations did. Everyone's trying to come up with a reason of why are we here?
Yeah,
What is life about? What is the meaning of life? And so religion, at least, is just one form of people having hopefully received information from a higher authority and them trying to explain what
yeah,
this life is that we live in.
right. And what we're called to do,
Yes.
which there's a lot of struggling in the world, and I don't know how much we don't have a ton of time to keep going on, but that's one of the things I've been challenged in faith on by many people not within the faith is how could I ever believe in a higher power that's forgiving and good and justified when there's so much death, chaos, and confusion in the world. And that's a struggle for anyone to convince somebody that's gone through a hard time or seen a disaster to say, hey, maybe that was meant to be.
Yeah. And I know that's a common thing people like to say, and I get it. It's not something that can easily be explained, and even very thorough, in-depth discussions may not fully explain it because everyone struggles with despair at some point, or just looking around at the horrors of the world and just like, how could a benevolent God create this, or if there is a higher power, are they actually a warlord? You take a look at the way the Old Testament is written, and it's like, hey, we found this man gathering sticks on the Sabbath. What should we do with him? And God said, oh, we should definitely kill him.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah, that's pretty messed up stuff in there.
right. It's different, and that's why you just really have to study it and see if you truly, test it, see if you do believe that, or
Yeah. Yeah, and those I feel like those are the kind of things you get into with your kids as they grow and evolve is you get questions of, well, why did they die and not that person? Or why did that person get hurt and not someone else? Or why am I being tortured at school while somebody else has it easy? And
yep.
like
Yeah, and
things
one
parents
thing
are struggling with.
I've heard too mention is people just created religion as a way to control the masses, create a set of laws and rules, or morality, if you will. And those are very deep theological topics that we'll definitely get involved more in on later podcasts, but that's a interesting one to think about, is what is morality, and what do we base our morals off of? Is it something
Yeah.
beyond our world, or is it just a product of our society?
Yeah, yeah, because I have plenty of friends across the board from different beliefs and environments and growing up, and you have 5-hour conversations back before you have kids with people of different beliefs, and even an atheist may have his own moral compass that they've built over the years from just what they've learned in life. They didn't need religion to build it, but they still have one, and maybe laws or people around them dictated that.
Right. Yep.
And so you never know who you're influencing either. So that's why they say act and live by faith, I guess, right?
Oh, for sure. And I like that much more than trying to tell someone, "Hey, I believe you're wrong and I'm right." And a
Yeah.
lot of times people online aren't even providing a reason. They're just like, "Oh, well, I think you're wrong."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you only get 10 characters to respond. So
you are wrong.
wrong. I think that's a pretty good wrapping point for this hour. As
Yeah, I know
people
this one
might
was
know.
all over the place, but I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk. We'll definitely have more uh,
Religious topics,
religious
right?
topics as we deep dive into certain things. And if there's anything our listeners would like to hear more on a specific topic, please feel free to hit us up on our socials.
Heck, we may even find like some sort of dead religion and kind of study it and come back and talk about. No, that might be beyond this podcast. Maybe if the kids come up with some sort of question, we can talk about it here. That'd be fun.
All right.
My kid said this today, and let's talk about it in the podcast. Talk about a whole hour of one thing.
For
Yeah, that
sure.
sounds like a good time. All
Well, I
right.
appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Dad's Discuss.
Please like and subscribe wherever you are listening.
Also, comment any topics you would like us to discuss and share this with your friends and family.
Finally, if you would like to be on the podcast or discuss any topics, please reach out via our contact information below.
Any other, why am I saying a lot? Anyways, or any other, damn it. We'll move on.